Hey, welcome to the Heart of Selling podcast. This is episode number 1. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the 5 biggest lessons we learned growing an online business to multiple 6 figures in the past year. My name is Beau, if you don't know already.
And my name is Demi, and we help up and coming online entrepreneurs sell their knowledge without selling their soul.
So bear with us in this first episode because we've never really done this before. We are life and business partners, but I'm usually behind the scenes, and Demi here is the face of the brand. So we've never really made content like this together, but because we've had so much success in the past year, we really want to start sharing our knowledge, sharing how we've had so much success growing a personal brand and an online business. And so we want to share the 5 biggest lessons that we've learned in this past year. So Demi, why don't you kick off with lesson number 1?
Okay, lesson number 1 is focusing on one thing is the key. One thing.
Just
so what
one.
do you feel about that?
Do you want to tell them our story, like how we started and how we didn't get off track like most entrepreneurs do? Like we stayed on one track, and for the past year, basically, we've done one thing.
So it was an original idea that I had because ever since then, 3 years ago, I've always told Beau that I wanted to teach. It's kind of like something that I really wanted to do is become a coach, not knowing that coaching is actually one of the most hardest businesses out there. But I told him that, and I said that I'm just going to create content and videos and whatnot and try to run ads on it.
About what, though? Like, why did you feel the need to teach? Like, teach what?
Teach Filipinos how to get the freedom that I have. So I wanted them to know and understand that digital marketing is actually one of the best things out there and that they can do that themselves.
Because you had success already with freelancing.
Yeah.
So you wanted to teach Filipinos how you had success with freelancing. Because like that's what got us out of our financial problems in the beginning. So
yes,
we're going to be pretty vulnerable with you guys and share our backstory. We've never really shared this publicly, but we came from pretty humble beginnings. So we don't want to come off as like, we're just so successful, you know, like we weren't always so successful. Like for a long time we struggled, and especially me, like I've been doing online business for longer than Demi, but I've had a lot more trial and error, but we've both had our trials and errors, and we don't want you to think we're like bragging about our success. We really want to share because we want to help people avoid all the very painful mistakes that we made.
You made most especially. You've got it longer. You had more mistakes than I did.
But you learned also how it's not always easy when you're starting a business, right?
Yes.
So a little backstory, like we had a lot of financial challenges, and then Demi started freelancing and we started making money that way, and that's how we like got out of poverty basically and were able to pay our bills for once. Like we were in debt and behind on our rent and stuff, and freelancing is sort of what saved us. So like offering services to other business owners, Demi started doing that, and we did that for a couple years and had quite a bit of success with that, right?
Especially in the Philippines, where Filipinos are just going on these kind of jobs that they don't even hate. It's like everyone that I know, basically, they would always tell me that, hey, I don't really like my job. And that's exactly how I felt. And when I knew that freelancing was something that could help other people, I said, why is it that nobody here in the Philippines actually teaches this? So I thought, well, I have the capability to teach. I might be learning, or I should be learning a lot of things talking in front of the camera, but I'm pretty sure I can do that. So like the confidence was already there, even if there were a lot of negative thoughts telling me that, hey, I can't do it, I'm gonna get judged.
But then again, you had something very valuable to share. So it wasn't really about you. I mean, there is that hesitation when you're putting yourself out there, but like you realized that you had a method of freelancing that was like superior to most other freelancing methods that Filipinos are using. So you knew you had something really valuable to share. And so you started sharing that, and then Create and Rise Academy was born, right?
Yes. Create and Rise Academy was born in 2019.
2019. And so that's what we started with. We started a personal brand, and Demi was the face of the brand. And we decided to Create and Rise Academy, which was teaching other Filipinos how to earn 100,000 pesos per month minimum, working part-time hours. So that was the beginning, and we launched Create and Rise Academy in July of 2019.
I think it's August, babe.
Whatever.
August 2019.
Pretty close. So we made like 78 sales of our first launch of it. It was like a couple $1,000s, and we're like, oh, okay. So that sort of validated the idea for us that this could be a possible path for us. But we want to get back to the lesson, the focus on one thing, right? So what have we been doing for the past year?
So what we've been doing in the past year is only focusing on one sort of traffic, like one kind. So that was Facebook ads, basically. So one medium of traffic, one type of topic. So we didn't just, in my content creation part of things, in my content marketing, I wasn't just randomly talking about like, hey, I'm going to talk about e-commerce selling this day, and then the next day I'm going to talk about freelancing. So I really focused and dialed into just talking about the strategies and techniques that I have been doing for the past 3-4 years to share it to them.
Just about freelancing.
Yes, just about freelancing.
And we even got more narrow than that. It wasn't just freelancing, but it was freelancing for women
and
in the Philippines.
Yes.
In the Philippines. So our niche was very narrow. So we focused narrow on one niche, and then one traffic source, which was Facebook ads, and one product, which was Create and Rise Academy. So over the past year, we've just focused on that one thing and constantly just optimizing that one thing. And that is, you think, responsible for our success.
Yes. So what exactly have you been doing? Because I know people are going to ask, like, hey, who is this Beau guy?
So I'm like the strategist, the business strategist, and Demi is like the face of the brand. So she's the one who's like building a relationship with her audience, because she's a Filipino, you know, born and raised in the Philippines. And so she connects with Filipinos more than I would, you know. If I was teaching Filipinos, it might not work. So she's the face of the brand. She builds that connection with the audience, and she's teaching, you know, what she's learned over the years. And I'm like the guy who's doing the marketing strategy, like planning how we're going to scale the business, how we're going to monetize the business, and things like that. But basically, the lesson we want to share is that we went all in on one thing. Like, I see the biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make is they're focused on so many different things at once. And because of that, they don't make any real progress in any one of those areas. Like, they're focusing on multiple social media channels and trying to grow their audience on all these different social media channels, or they're trying to build multiple products at once, or they're making one product and then they're moving on to the next product. That is one of the biggest reasons I think people fail, because they're never going all in on one thing long enough to really see progress.
But the reason why they're doing that also is because of what? They're scared of failure. That's why they're jumping from one business idea to another. It's that fear of like, what if this is not going to work? So I'm just going to like tiptoe on this one and then try to tiptoe on the other business idea too, so that if plan A fails, then I have plan B, C, E, F, G, H, I, J, K.
Yeah, it's like a protective mechanism. Like if we start many things, then maybe we'll be protected, because if one fails, we'll have a backup. But it's actually sort of
counterproductive.
It doesn't do what we think it's gonna do. Like, it actually just makes us less productive, less effective. Because we started with Create and Rise Academy, and we only made like a couple $1,000s our first launch. Like, it wasn't a huge success, but it validated the idea. And like, a lot of people might have that launch and they're like, oh, I only made a couple $1,000s. Like, is this really worth it? Like, and they might just stop there, right?
Long-term versus short-term thinking.
Yeah. So we stuck through, and we didn't just stop once, you know, we launched it. We kept relaunching it, and every time we launched it, we got a little bit better, and we just, for a whole year, we just focused on that one thing.
Yeah. And we didn't even make this podcast until like 1 full year of being in Create and Rise. Like, we'd never really thought about doing something else until it has been a year of just going all in on Create and Rise Academy.
But like, we had the idea for maybe doing something like this a long time ago, but we had to like resist doing that.
Yeah.
So that we could really do
Focus.
what was going to be the most profitable and get us to a point. That's another thing. Like, once, if you go all in on one thing, it might be a little bit difficult because you might get bored of doing that same thing. But it, like, you have to realize that one thing, if you go all in on it and you have a lot of success with it, that can give you freedom to later on. You can spread yourself thin a little more because you have the cash, you have the money in the bank from going in on that one thing.
Yeah.
So then you can do more of, you know, what you love and not have to think about the money all the time, right? So that's number one. Focus all on one thing, one product, one traffic source, one social media channel. Like, always try to narrow it down as much as possible. So what's number two?
Number two is shipping before it's perfect. So what that means is that you don't need to get it right the very first time before you even sell it. So this is something that I did in Create and Rise Academy. Is I created CRA 1.0, the very first version, which I would definitely say it's all washed out. Like, I did not even know what I was going to teach, did not ask my audience about it, did not know if it was the right thing to do. And the first thing that was in my mind is just really, I needed to have some sort of video in there inside the platform, some sort of worksheet. That's all I know. Like, have no idea what it's going to be. And when I launched Create and Rise Academy, I did not even know what I was going to do next. So literally not having a solid plan on what it's going to be. Like, just put it out there.
It's like the minimum viable version.
Yes.
Like, we kind of knew that later on we would have to redo the whole thing. Like, we just wanted to get version 1 out there and get feedback, right?
Yeah.
And so after that initial success and we validated the idea, then we were, you know, once you have buyers, let's say, who buy your product, then you're going to be a little more motivated to, like, make the product better, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, there's pressure on you. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, having so many students coming in and the pressure that puts on you to, like, be better at what you do.
So naturally, I have this performance anxiety. Beau knows about this a lot. I talk about this like almost every day in our lives of us being together. I've always said, like, I'm not good enough and all these things. So naturally, when CRA 1.0 came out, the first thing that I had in terms of, like, students asking questions is that, is this all that there is? So they're always asking about, is this all that there is? There isn't any type of, like, skills training, or are you not going to dive a little bit deeper on marketing, all these things. So when that came up, that to me was like, oh my God, I got something out there that was not even good enough and people are buying it. So to me, that was a huge natural pressure that I wasn't being good enough. So that was like an automatic body response, like, oh, I really need to re-record all this entire thing and be able to provide everything that I can for the mentees before I even decide to go on a new thing. Because we were talking about creating this new thing called Lead and Rise, and I said, wait a minute, we're not going to do that because I need to re-record the entire CRA module. Like, I need to redo it because I want it to be the best that it can be. So
having those students really puts the pressure on you to deliver, and you might not even know what you need to deliver until you get those students and you get that feedback. Like, it's not a bad thing, like, that people had some maybe criticisms even of the course because you didn't know exactly what people needed until after they bought. So, and you might not have had that pressure on yourself to even make it better until you got those first students. So that's why it's so important to, like, ship it before you're ready, because otherwise you won't have the pressure because you won't have that accountability or the feedback.
Some people think that you need to make it perfect first, like how you would do it. If you were the only one doing it, how would you do it?
Yeah, so I have the tendency to want to make it, like,
perfect.
Like, my personality type is, like, I want to plan until it's so perfect that I guess that's sort of like a protective mechanism too, like an insecurity. Like, if I make it perfect, then no one can criticize it, you know? So it's like, it's protecting myself from the criticism, because if it's perfect, then no one can criticize it. But I heard someone say one time that perfection cannot happen in isolation.
Yes.
Like, something can't be really called perfect unless you actually put it out there to get feedback, because it might be perfect in your eyes, but in other people's eyes, it might not be. You know, there might be missing elements. It's not really about getting to the point of perfection, because that's never going to happen. Like, you're never going to please everyone, but it's just about shipping it so you can get the feedback, so you can validate your ideas, so you can improve it, right? And get a little closer and closer and closer to perfect over time.
Brendan Burchard also said something about that. Excellence is different from perfection. So we always say that we need to do something or create a task or finish a project, and we make it really, really, really good. But that doesn't mean that you need to make it perfect. It just means that you need to strive for excellence.
Excellence might be like 80% perfect, you know? It's like you do what you can given the resources you have and the time you have, and then you allow yourself to improve it over time.
Yeah.
So having the long-term view of things. I'll go on to the third one, which is lots of money won't make you happier. No matter how much you think it will. We all tend to think we will, even though, like, I've always known intellectually that money won't make you happy. You know, you hear that all the time. It's like
everyone says
money won't make you happy. Money won't make you happy. And that's true, but money does give you a lot more options in life, doesn't it? A lot more freedom.
A lot more freedom to do the things you need.
Freedom can give you the opportunity to do things that will make you happier, I guess, you know. So do you want to talk a little bit about like how in the past, when we didn't have money, the things we could and couldn't do versus the things we can and can't do today? And how that, like, the difference between that.
Where do you want me to start?
Let's start at
rock bottom. Okay. So when we were living together for the very first time, our first year together, we were living in this sort of like apartment that didn't really have anything. It was okay. It was not horrible, but we've always looked for really nice places. And there was one time that we wanted to go out from that place. And Beau was looking for apartments online. And it was like, what was that, 30K? 30K a month?
30K a month. Well, that's pesos. So
in pesos,
so that's like $600. Like, our apartment we were living in was like $300 a month.
Yeah.
And like, we wanted to upgrade to like a $600 a month apartment. And I remember being so pissed because we couldn't even afford the $600 a month apartment.
Yes.
It's like, because the apartment we were living in, there was like a bunch of roosters like outside. Yeah. And we were like sick of all the roosters all the time because we had to record videos and stuff. And like, there's always roosters in the background. And like, I'm trying to record like these guided meditation audios. And you can't have a guided meditation with roosters in the background. It like defeats the whole purpose.
Like roosters, dogs.
Yeah.
Everything was there.
So like, there were things we wanted to do and that we knew we needed to do to like, you know, be better in everything and in our business and everything. Like, we wanted to do more, provide more value, but it's like we felt held back because we didn't have the financial resources. So like, what are some other things that we couldn't do back then? Versus...
We couldn't even buy like the equipment that we want. So I was using a laptop, this Lenovo IdeaPad 100 that I loaned from my aunt for 15,000 pesos. That's $300. And every time I turn on Photoshop, because I was freelancing that time, every time I turn on Photoshop, it just completely shuts down. And I would like get so pissed because it's wasting so much of my time. Like, I could do something in like 15-30 minutes, but just because I have a very horrible laptop, it would take me longer than it should. And we never had the means to do that, or I never had the means to even buy a really good laptop because we just didn't have it. Like, I didn't really have the money to do that.
And like a camera, we were using like this old digital
Huawei phone.
Old digital camera that I had from like many years ago. Yeah. And it's like the lens on it was all messed up, and like we had trouble with our audio equipment and stuff. And like, there were all these obstacles. We were trying to build a business, and like, there were so many obstacles just because of like the lack of financial resources.
Yes.
So I guess the point is, like, money won't make you happier, but it will give you so many more resources for you to really pursue your mission in life and like do the things, not just the things you want to do, but also to give more value to others. It's like by upgrading our equipment, upgrading our laptop, buying these microphones and things. Like now we can actually create this podcast and not, we couldn't do that in the past, really.
Add to cart and Lazada, Shopee, Amazon, all things you can, so that you can buy better equipment. And it's easier that way. It's like, it's $300.
Also, I think it's important to talk about giving back. Like how has that changed?
Mm-hmm.
That's a big one. How has that changed? Like our ability to contribute, like to people in the community.
Yeah. So back in the day, I used to not give tips to delivery drivers. We always order or ask other people to help us achieve things when we're home. And back in the day, I used to not give them tips because I feel like 1 peso can change my entire life. I feel like 1 peso back in the day is a really huge factor, and that I shouldn't just randomly give it to people because it's something that I could still use. It's like that tiny amount is something that I could still use in other things. And now it's just like, well, we had this opportunity, we have all these equipment, these blessings, it's time to give back. So more and more people every day, every time we have things delivered, I'm more comfortable giving $5 tips, $20 tips, because I'm more comfortable about it now. It's not like I'm coming from a lack, what do you call that kind of mindset, babe?
Lack mentality. Poverty consciousness.
Yeah, poverty consciousness. So I used to be very hindered by giving back. And Beau would always tell me, like, hey, maybe you should tip the person. And I was like, what? What tip are you talking about? We need this money right now. What are you talking about, tips?
Yeah, I guess I've always had the mentality that you should give more than you feel comfortable with. Like, give a little, not like a ton, like don't give all your money away, but like if you're only comfortable tipping 20 pesos to the delivery driver, try tipping like 50. Yeah. Even if you think you can't afford it or whatever, just try going a little extra and being a little more generous, because I think it always comes back to you. And that attitude of generosity is going to translate into everything else you do. Like that generosity also translated into our business. And like we can be more generous in our business because we have the habit of being generous. And so now that we have much more financial resources, now we can be even more generous. So I think that's important, because a lot of people think that like having a lot of money is greedy, or that it makes you selfish to want to make a lot of money. That one. But in reality, it hasn't changed us at all. It has just given us more ability to do what we already did, which was be generous and give back when we could. Yeah. And now we just have so much more to give back. Like we have more knowledge to give back now. We have more money to give back.
Yeah, and that translated to the knowledge that we're giving away to people. Like, for example, this podcast is a really good manifestation of how we became more generous, because we're not actually making money from this, but we're very much willing to sit down for a couple hours, just talk about our strengths, weaknesses, and how we can help other people. And we're doing that without asking for anything in exchange, but more of like really giving back after all these blessings that came to our lives.
And we couldn't do this if we hadn't had that generous attitude from the very beginning.
Translates.
It's like the saying, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So like if you're very stingy and you're not generous just with a delivery driver, and you can't tip a couple pesos or whatever, then how are you going to start a business that requires you to give to other people and solve other people's problems? Like if you can't even give a little tip to a delivery driver, how are you going to give to the world as a whole? Like you have to realize that the small things also translate into the big things. It's not just having more resources helps you, but it also allows you to help others in a much bigger way.
Number 4, yin and yang in business. This is what we call the balance of thinking and the balance of the emotions when you are doing your very own business.
So I'm like the thinker in the business.
Yes. Ooh, I love this part.
She is the feeler. And we've found that is a very good combination to have in business. Like I think a lot of our success is because we put our head and our heart together. Yeah. And we went all in on one thing, like we said earlier. But it's like the combination of thinking and feeling. So like Demi is more the feeler, and she can connect with people. She's more outgoing than I am. She has a more vibrant
when I need
personality, you know, at least in public. So she can connect with people on a heart level.
Yeah.
And then I'm like the thinker who's behind the scenes, like doing the strategy of everything.
Yes.
Doing the numbers, the math of the business, making sure that it works financially.
Because that's something I wouldn't do. I wouldn't have spreadsheets, dude. Like, you cannot ever have me create a spreadsheet of the ROAS and like the CPL and whatever stuff is in there. You can never have me do that.
So it might not work as well, or it might not even work at all if you only have one side of the equation.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one though, because some people might think, well, I don't have a business partner.
Yes.
Like I'm a feeler type,
that one.
But I don't have a business partner. So what can I do? Like, how can people access that thinker part without being that themselves?
Yes.
Do you have any ideas or suggestions?
Well, to me, it's very important that you have a mentor, as always, because you need to access other people's personality types so that you can achieve the goals that you need. Because as a person, you only need yourself, or you only have yourself rather. So you only have one mind, one body, one heart. And it might take you so many times, or so many years rather, months, and like a lot of time for you to even be able to become a feeler yourself if you're a thinker type. So it will take you years to basically change from a person, right? So don't wait for that.
Or to try to like compensate for your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Like instead of trying to make your weaknesses strong, just find someone else who's already strong at that thing and learn from them. Right. So
you don't really need to partner. That's the point.
You don't need to have a business partner who complements you, but you need to learn from other people who are maybe the opposite of you in some ways. So like if you're a feeler type, like I think a lot of your audience is females.
Yes.
So they're more feelers in general. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. So if you're a female and you're more of an emotional, heart-centered person, you might want to make an extra effort to learn from people who are more thinker types.
Yes.
You know, because there's a tendency, I think, to just gravitate towards people who are similar to you.
Yeah, because you can relate.
Yeah. So if you're a feeler, you might be attracted to learning from another feeler. But that might not be good for you, actually. Because that's just reinforcing what you already are instead of learning from someone who's maybe different than you.
Yeah.
Like who could complement you. So if you're a feeler, learn from someone who's super intellectual and smart and intelligent. Or if you're very much a thinker and very logical, you might benefit a lot from learning from someone who's more heart-centered and more compassionate.
But my question is, how are you going to be aware? Like if you're a feeler type and you are naturally drawn to people who are emotional in their content, how would you know exactly that you actually need that, or that person is not what I need right now?
Well, I think it's okay to learn from both types, but I think it's just to like be aware of your weaknesses, like be honest with yourself. And like,
oh yeah, that one is big.
That's a big one, being honest with yourself, because you can't really learn or strengthen your weaknesses if you're not honest with yourself. So I think we've been pretty good at that. Like you're pretty honest that you don't like the numbers part of business, and like if you didn't have me to do that kind of stuff for you, you would have to like reach out to someone who did know that.
Yeah.
Like for example, running Facebook ads, like you probably wouldn't do that yourself. You would if you had to.
I tried to figure it out myself, but it didn't work.
But
really,
if you couldn't, then you would have to hire someone maybe to do that for you, or find someone who could teach you.
Ooh, Russell Brunson says something about that. He would always say that.
Oh yeah, he has a saying. He has a saying. Don't think what, but think who.
Yeah, that one.
So instead of thinking what do I have to do, think who can do this for me.
Who can do it for me? Yeah,
that's a good one. So yeah, being honest with yourself. In your weaknesses, maybe doing the personality test.
Ooh.
So you can the 16 personalities, 16personalities.com. It'll show you your personality type, and the third letter in there is F or T.
Yes.
So that's feeling or thinking. And so if you get an F there, so like for example, you're a what?
INFJ.
And I'm an INTP. So we sort of go well together because she has the F, I have the T.
Yeah, all my weaknesses are actually what he has as strengths, which is
and
incredible.
All my weaknesses are like what she has as strengths.
Yeah.
So it's like we really complement each other well. Another one to look at on that is the I and the E, the introversion and the extroversion. Like we're both introverts and it still works because she's more comfortable in being in the public eye.
Yeah.
So it still works. But like if you're an introvert feeler, you might want to partner with an extrovert thinker, possibly.
Yeah.
Because they're going to complement your weaknesses.
Yes. That's also something that Beau and I always have a couple of troubles together. We don't really have, like, we don't necessarily have big fights, but us being an introvert, both of us, like, I might have a turn on switch, but sometimes we just really want to.
We want to stay behind the scenes.
Yeah. We like alienate all our friends. Like, our friends would always ask us, say, hey guys, can you like go out and like let's have some fun? Especially like our friends.
Yeah.
Always invite us to go out and we're like, nah, bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
You can come over and play some Monopoly or something.
Yeah, nerdy types.
We're not going to the club. So.
Yeah.
That's another important lesson in business, though. I think it's like maybe tone down the partying, and if you're that if you're that type of person, like where you're like going out and partying, like maybe just learn to be a little more introverted. Or if you're introverted, maybe learn to be a little more extroverted, you know?
Yeah,
so
always
like,
go out of your comfort zone.
It's the yin and yang, right? So
balance.
So that's an important lesson, I think. And that, you don't have to have a business partner to do this.
Just like, tap other people's strengths and weaknesses.
Learn from other people. Never think that you know it all. Like you have all the answers. Like we're good in business together because we both admit where we're weak.
Yes.
And where we're strong. And we both recognize that in each other. So we're on to number 5 now. Number 5 is business is really just personal development on steroids.
Ooh.
So this is a big one that a lot of people realize once they get into business, but they might not realize it when they're first starting.
Yes.
Like a lot of people think business is just about making
money.
And selling and making money. And it's just numbers and it's just, But when you quickly find out, most people, especially when you're starting a personal brand where you have to like put yourself out there in the public eye, you start to realize that business is a lot of emotional and psychological shit that comes up. Like it's much more than just numbers. Like you want to talk about that, and like I think you can really talk more about this. I mean, we both can. But you've been out in the public eye for the past year.
Yes.
So you can really relate to like what it's like to put yourself outside of your comfort zone and like the challenges that come along with that. Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about like how you've dealt with that or what you've experienced and challenges and like how you've overcome a lot of that?
I can't say that I've already overcame
Not
a
everything,
lot of it.
But you've overcome a lot.
Yeah. So I've come from a very long emotional path because I'm HSP, highly sensitive person. Beau knows a lot how I react on people that are commenting on my ads, and we just cannot stop running ads, of course, because how are people going to know about my work? How are people going to know about the content that I put out there and the product that I'm selling, or Create and Rise Academy, basically? So I need to constantly put myself out there, record videos, create content, put my face in a lot of ads, even though those photos look shit. But we still do, or I still do, because the purpose is there. Like I have a very strong purpose. But even though no matter how I feel, like how strong the purpose is, sometimes really at the end of the day, I still feel like it's not enough. Just 2 days ago, should I talk about that? 2 days ago, there's something that really struck me to the core, and I really went to Beau and cried about it, because ever since I started this journey, oh my god, I'm teary-eyed. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. Ever since I started this journey, I've always felt like I wasn't good enough. For some reason, that's the very exact reason why you see me going out there and overcompensating and always putting my best self, my professionalism, high excellence, all these things. It's because I've always felt like I'm not good enough. And this one person posted in another group for freelancers and asked about Create and Rise Academy. And while there were people who were saying like, yeah, if it's too good to be true, then it might not be good. Like what I'm offering in Create and Rise Academy is that you can earn 100,000 pesos. That is how much in dollars, hun?
It's $2,000.
$2,000,
which isn't really that much. Like it's not too good to be true, really.
So to a Filipino, it's too good to be true.
It might seem that way, but it's not really.
Yeah. So people are saying that if it's too good to be true, then it might not be right. Like it's probably a fraud or something. And the mentees or my students just went on to that post and really like backed me up big time and say that, hey, like Creighton Rise Academy is the best thing that happened in my life and all these things. And to me, that was like a wake up call. Like after all this year of me trying to build Creighton Rise Academy, that was like a wake up call that, hey, maybe I'm not that worthless. Maybe I'm actually useful. Maybe I'm actually really changing people's lives. And it was a complete slap in my face. Like, what have I been thinking for the past year that really made me realize that I'm not good enough, when there are these people that would always tell me that I've really done a really good job in their lives. And
It's okay. Why don't you talk more about like so like there was a lot of insecurity.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of insecurity, like what are people gonna think about what I'm doing? And
yeah.
you're always gonna have like a few haters, right? And people coming out just trying to pull you down just because, I don't know, they're jealous or they don't see the value even though other people do. And so
I think they just don't believe it in themselves. It's more of like they don't believe that it can happen to them. So if it cannot happen to them, then maybe it's impossible or it's too good to be true.
So they want to pull down other people because they secretly feel like they can't
like
do
they
it.
Cannot
so they don't
it.
want other people to do it either.
And I've always taken that personally. It's like, oh, these people, they say that because, well, I might not really be able to get other people results, but really it's a personal issue that they're encountering, and that's how they're feeling, basically.
Well, there's this like tendency of the mind to focus on the negative and ignore the positive. Like you could have 99 people tell you how much they love you, and one person tell you how much they hate you.
Me.
And what's your mind gonna focus on? Your mind's going to focus on the 1 out of 100 that hates you instead of the 99 who love you. And
that's what Beau always reminds me, like every single day he would always say, why are you focusing on that very one thing? Like just go back to your group and see how much people love you actually. Like what proof do you need? He would always say, what proof do you need? What else do you need to confirm that you have been changing people's lives in the past year? Like what else do you need to know?
Yeah, and I think it's just important to realize like it's not about you. It's about what you're able to do for others. And like if you focus on it being about you personally, then you're always gonna feel offended when you get criticism. But if you focus on like who you're helping, then it doesn't really matter if someone criticizes you because you see the evidence that you're helping people, and it's like that's what matters. It's like what someone's opinion of you doesn't mean shit. Like, because you're helping these thousands of people and like that's your focus. Like, why would you pay attention to some hater who doesn't like, who's never gonna see the value in you anyway, who's probably never gonna buy your product or anything? Like, what does that person's opinion matter in the grand scheme when you have all these thousands of people who are getting so much value from you and who you're helping? And so that's what you have to make it about, is it's about helping other people and kind of get your ego out of it. But
on the flip side of things also, there are people putting their brands out there and always thinking about themselves. It's like, hey, I want to be a coach because I want to be this person that is being recognized by a lot of people. It's you're wanting for approval. It's not actually you wanting to help other people. You just disguise it as that. I get pissed on those people. Now I went from like being sad into like completely pissed.
So like personal branding, people think that personal branding is about like turning yourself into like a celebrity or something. Yes. But the way we see it is it's like it's for offering value. It's like you're delivering value through your personal brand. Like you use your personality, I guess, to attract people who think and feel like you. So you
show them the opportunity that they're missing out on.
Show them the opportunity, and then you use that to provide value. So it's not like you're in it for your ego. It's not like you want to be famous. Like if you want to be famous, then you're probably in business for the wrong reasons. Like if you're making it about you. But regardless of that, we all have this thing called an ego.
Yeah.
So when you're in business, you're always going to have that habit of like making it about you and taking things personally. And that's where the personal development comes in.
Yes.
It's like you get triggered by the haters, and then you have to learn how to let that go and focus on the mission. Focus on what's really important.
Yeah.
So how have you like progressed over the years? Like how would you say you are now compared to like taking criticism and dealing with that? Like now compared to a year ago?
Not even a year ago, back in 3 years ago.
How have you learned to deal with it though? Like what were the things that helped you overcome that? Because I think a lot of people really hesitate to start a business because of this.
Yes, exactly.
Because they're terrified to get criticized by others. And they know that it's going to happen because it always is going to happen. When you put yourself in the public eye, you will get criticized. No matter how great you are. Like you will.
No matter how smart you are, dude.
And like, the more successful you are, the more people are going to criticize you. Like you can't escape that part. So you have to learn how to deal with that. Deal with it in advance. So that's what we want to help you with, like to be able to anticipate what's coming.
Yes.
So you can deal with it in advance and prepare your mind for that. So what would you say like are the key things that helped you like not take things personally or deal with it when it comes?
First one is that it's not about you. That was a big one to me. When you told me that, that was like the first time I heard Beau told me that it's not about you. Like if people are criticizing you, trolling on you, it's never about you. It's more of like them trying to project their suffering onto you. So if you're putting yourself out there, creating videos, creating content, and someone is just going to troll on you and say like, hey, you need a nose job, or, you know, I did receive, like for the record, I did receive a person telling me that I need to get a nose job. I would never forget that. That was so...
Those are just bullies.
No, like, I know, no idea. But of course, there are further criticisms than that. Like, hey, why are you teaching? The strongest one to me that I could really remember is that there's this person that was, I think, charging $1 to $2 per hour.
Really? Wow.
And I was posting something about how you should start charging $5 to $10 per hour when you are a beginner, and they just rambled on the comment section thinking or saying that what I'm teaching is wrong. Like she was actually saying that, well, if you're saying that people should be charging $5 to $10 per hour as a beginner, what am I charging? Like I'm charging for kindergarten stuff.
That triggered her insecurity.
That triggered me.
So that wasn't about you though. That was about her because
Yeah.
she felt insecure because she was only charging $2 an hour, and you're teaching people how to charge like $10 an hour as a beginner, even as a total beginner in the Philippines.
No experience, all these things.
And so that's like a threat to her. Like it threatened her personal beliefs and like what she's because like if other people are charging 10, that makes her wrong. You know, so it's like her ego is trying to defend herself.
But my ego too, at the same time, when I read that comment, I was like, what the hell?
Because you didn't understand.
Yeah, I didn't understand.
Because you didn't understand that it was actually about her, her suffering. You know, people project their suffering. So I think that's a really, really important one. Because like, if you don't understand that, you're always going to be angry at your haters.
Yes.
Instead of being compassionate towards them. So
like understanding where they are coming from is the very first one that you need to do.
Yeah, and not really judge them for it, but just realize like they're just projecting what they believe onto you and trying to make you wrong.
Yes.
When in reality, it's not really right or wrong. It's just different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
Different perspectives. Understanding, not judging. That's one.
And then the second one would be anticipating that they will come. So this is something that I've learned from Brendan Burchard, that fortunately, Beau already told me this like many times before. But just because I like Brendan and I watched him on YouTube and he told me that, that was the only time that it sunk into me. And I went to Beau and I'm like, babe, Brendan Burchard said this is a gem that I really need to anticipate haters when they come. And Beau was like, well, you knew that I was telling you that for like years now, don't you? And that was the only time that it sunk into me. But yeah, when you anticipate the haters coming, then it's easier for you to neglect them or ignore them because you already anticipated them. So just know that when you're putting yourself out there, there will always be haters. And one of my good friends would always say that even if you're just standing in there, you're not doing anything, they will still judge you. If you're just sitting in the corner and you're not even doing anything, they would somehow still think, oh, what is this girl not doing anything in the corner? Like, they always have something to say no matter what.
Yeah. So you just have to know that they're coming and expect them to come. So when they do come, it's not a surprise.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, I think you were surprised that the haters were coming. And I was like, you have to just know that they're coming. Like
expectations. Yeah. There you have it. You have to set an expectation.
If you expect it already and it's already prepared, you're already prepared for it. Like you already know that, okay, someone's going to come out soon and hate on me. Like then it's not as bad when it does happen.
Yeah.
So maybe just don't deal
with them.
Like don't read your comments on your ads and stuff. Hire someone else to take care of it. That's a big one that we did actually. We hired a customer service person to respond to all the emails and messages and stuff. And I mean, we still respond to some of them, but for the most part, we outsource that because, you know, we're focused on bigger things like giving value and creating content like this right now. We shouldn't really be in our inbox and reading all the hate comments.
Which is something that I still do.
It's not like it's a ton of hate, but there's always like a percentage of, and you don't want to like let that into your mind because it's going to affect you.
It's going to creep on you.
I mean, you should deal with it. I think in the beginning, you should practice dealing with it and reading the comments because that helps you like release that, you know, so you're not as triggered by it. But eventually when you reach a point where you can afford to hire someone, just hire someone to read the comments or delete the comments that are really super negative.
Block the people.
And actually, before we end this episode, I think there's one more thing about this, and that is like differentiating between a hater and someone who's offering actual constructive criticism.
Yes.
Because some people might offer you criticism, like constructive criticism. It might sound like they're being negative, but there actually might be something valuable to learn.
That's still something that I'm still developing. Yeah. Up until this day, it still is. It's like, even if it's not supposed to be a criticism, this is like my chronic problem is that when someone says something, it's not even a criticism, but I assume that it is. So then I get triggered. And at the flip side of the coin, it's also the same thing. It's like when someone is criticizing you, it's not always a bad thing, but maybe you can take that criticism with a grain of salt and actually think that it's true and then use that to improve whatever it is that you're doing.
Even if it's not 100% true, there might be something in what they're saying that is true that you could actually use to improve what you're doing.
Yes.
Like someone might say, for example, like let's say you make a YouTube video and someone says, you talk too quiet. You know?
Did you receive that comment before?
Maybe, I don't know. But like if someone says that, you could get mad at that person and be like, how dare they criticize me?
Oh, yeah.
Or you could be like, oh, you know, maybe I actually do need to speak up a little bit or something like that. You know, it might sound like they're just hating on you, but it actually might be valuable advice.
Yeah. I also had one experience where I uploaded a video on YouTube and explaining kind of like it was an income report.
Yeah.
I was earning, how much was that? 180K a month. And I did like an income report for that. And the title of that very video is How to Earn 180K. But actually, I was not teaching them how to earn that, but I was just showing my income report to tell them that it was possible. Right. And then there's this one person that said that, well, you did not tell us how to earn this. And I took that very personally. I said, oh my God, like, I just want to punch this woman in the throat right now. Or like... all these stupid reactions.
But they were right, actually.
Yeah, they were right, actually.
Yeah. So differentiating between actual hate and constructive criticism.
Yes.
So don't take everything so personally, you know, like just learn from everything. That's the motto that I have in life. It's like, even if something seems negative, there's always something to learn. Mm-hmm. No matter how negative the situation. Like,
that's your TI talking.
It's true, though. Like, we went through some crazy shit. Like in the past, like we were on the verge of being homeless and like we were at some really low points, but everything was just a learning lesson that we needed to like get to the next level. So I guess that's a good way to conclude today's episode is learn from every experience. And let us know what you think of this episode. If you can, comment or send us a message. And
that's a first episode right there. Oh my god.
So this was our practice session basically for our first episode. So we're looking forward to doing more of these and delivering more value to you. So let us know what you want to learn about in future episodes.
Let us know how we did.
Yeah, but don't be too harsh.
Don't be too harsh, or else I'm just going to take it personally. Beau can handle all the types of criticism right there, but like me, I don't know. Probably not even read it.
So give us your honest thoughts. What did we do good? What did we do bad? What do you want to learn about? And we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.